we got ourselves not Ellen Historian this time, but the fallout of Ellen Historian's actions. He's been kind of wilding out, right? Maybe you agree with him, maybe you don't. And we've been covering the drama of the anime tourist stuff, and Chibi kind of got involved. Some shots fired, and we got a response. The anime tourist problem and all anime is political crowd tries to cancel the anime man. It's actually insane how far this drama has come. It's been shape-shifting. It's been evolving. It started off with the anime men making a tier list, which exploded and then caused an outcry in the anime community, calling people the T word, a slur, right? And the anime man posted a reaction to it, and then Ellen Historian called him, not a colonizer, but how could you make this joke at the expense of the victims? We went through that lengthy. And Chibi somehow got roped into it. It's actually crazy how much this stupid drama has changed. Let's listen to Chibi's take about this.
It's become more and more common for the avocation of censorship of anime and manga, and even topics like, is fan service even necessary for anime in 2025? And then you have people saying all art is political, like anime and manga is political, and so I think it's now a better time than ever to really discuss the elephant in the room. And
is anime inherently political? Is all art inherently political, right? And I think that I've been thinking about this more and more after I have obviously given my stance on this the last couple days. And what was my stance? My stance was, I think politics is something that is ingrained to every little thing into the subconscious of our minds, because politics is simply what? The difference of viewpoints of the people in which their value systems differ, right? Either you're more liberal or you're more conservative based on your life experiences, a culture, and the environment you grew up with. A lot of things, even if they are not explicitly in your face political, I think politics has basically, it's ingrained into everything we do, right? Not everything, again, is a political think piece. You can obviously bring up any example and say, this isn't politics. What about this anime? This anime, I know. But like, I'm trying to say, politics, I feel like, is still deep into the subconscious of everything that exists, because anything that exists that's made by man, humans, and the difference of opinions that we have, like, leads to political debates. One Piece was the example I think Ellen Historian gave, which was definitely a much more explicit, in-your-face, direct example of, pirates fighting for freedom going against a tyrannical government. But here is the part. I think that people are arguing without really having a understanding of what the other side is saying. The semantics, the definitions of inherently political is something that I think is going over a lot of people's heads. I think Chibi and Ellen Historian is actually arguing past each other. I think that if they actually conversed in a call, they would actually agree with a lot of things. And my final take is, I think politics exists pretty much everywhere. It doesn't need to be immediately in your face. I think that if you can really do the mental gymnastics, you can interpret anything as being political. And the intent isn't for things to be like, for example, One Piece. I don't think Oda is trying to say you need to think in this specific way, right? Oda is not giving you this story to make you like align with a specific political party or identity. He's simply showing you examples of what actually happens in the real world too, with oppression and, the group of power just basically oppressing the masses, and for people and Luffy to fight against that injustice and the freedom. And you can interpret that in any way you want. And that is kind of where I'm going to leave that.
that is...
Thank you, Straw Hat Toby, for the 9 months. Appreciate you.
The anime tourist problem. I have talked briefly about this in separate videos, but I think that it's very important to really talk about this because I feel like more or less I'm obligated to, especially since I've been at the heart of a lot of controversy as of late when it comes to game.
No, I don't think it's Chibi at the heart of the controversy. I think it's Ellen Historian at the heart of controversy, trying to fucking pull in any fucking name.
Keeping anime tourist and just people getting legitimately upset about fan service in general, and me trying to fight for artists or creators being able to express themselves within their art in any way they want, even if that content might be problematic to some people, which is from the words of Ellen Historian himself, which, you know, let me just play this real quick before I
Let's play it!
Perfect. For example, if I criticize something like Mushoku Tensei or Rudius, who, let's be honest, has some really problematic aspects, these anti-tourists will get mad at me, dismiss everything I say, then label me the tourist. And it's not like I don't know what I'm...
And this specific part, right, is talking about the more pedophilic, you know, tendencies that this character has. No matter if it's fiction or not, it is definitely uncomfortable things. And there is absolutely a group of people that exist in shows like Mushoku Tensei or any other shows like even Blue Archive, right? Where they would absolutely call you a tourist because you are what? Anti-lolly. That's kind of like what they're saying. When we're talking about fan service, right? Specifically in these shows, what are we talking about? It's the creepy, you know, sexual elements of like lollies and stuff like that, right?
I'm talking about. I read the entire novel. And as for anime in general...
So, before we go any further, can we talk about how he says that Mushoku Tensei, Rudy, is problematic? He's a problematic character. And he does go on even further in this video to point out that Mushoku is a very problematic series, has a lot of problems, or tries to normalize problematic elements. But then he literally says, even though it's problematic, I critically consume it, so it's okay. And I'm just like, dude.
What's wrong with that?
Dude. Oh my.
So Ellen Historian's take is, this is a problematic show, but I'm able to kind of like put that to the side and enjoy the show for what it is beyond those problematic elements. And if I bring up these problematic elements and criticize it, then suddenly, you know, hardcore lolicons are going to call me a tourist simply based on the fact that I'm anti-lolly. That's kind of what Ellen Historian is saying. What's Chibi's problem with this?
My goodness. Like, I'm going to leave it at that one. But let's get into the main topic, and that is anime tourist.
What do you mean? You're skipping it. You sidestepped it. Listen, I'm not on anyone's side here, by the way. Many people think that, like, there is this term called fence sitter they can use at my videos as if you're owning me. I think that you're a fucking NPC if you use the word fence sitter, because you don't even think about the words and the ideas that I'm saying, and you simply want to say, I'm Chibi's side or I'm on Ellen Historian's side. I think the truth lies somewhere, anywhere in the spectrum. I care more about the ideas and logic. I don't give a fuck who's saying it. I come up with my own opinions with my own viewpoints, and therefore, I'm actually not a fucking NPC. Unlike you, the person who's typing fence sitter. So that's what, okay, first of all, let's just acknowledge that. Why won't Chibi answer the issue with this though? You know? I don't understand what is the problematic part here. I think Chibi's trying to say that Ellen Historian is a hypocrite, right? Again, I'm just paraphrasing. This is an assumption. He is a hypocrite because he acknowledges Mushoku Tensei is problematic, yet still consumes the problematic content while shitting on it at the same time. I think there is nothing inherently wrong with watching Mushoku Tensei, acknowledging that Rudius and many other, you know, elements in the show are weird and creepy, and the author absolutely does try to normalize some of those elements, but I can still appreciate it for what it is. Just like many other anime where there's a lot of weird shit happening, but I just say, you know what? That's just Japanese anime culture. It is what it is, and I move on. I don't really understand the problem here, but I think Chibi's trying to imply that, like, you can't basically have your stance because you're still consuming the show that you find problematic.
So you might have heard about this topic already from Joey, actually. He made a video 13 days ago called The Anime Tourist Problem.
Yeah.
And he had a 24-minute video, as you can see. It's a really good video, actually.
It is.
And he breaks down the good, the bad, and kind of the inevitable of why anime is like it is, or why the anime and manga community is like it is. And, you know, there is, at this point, honestly, no stopping the train that has been set in motion. More on that in a moment. But the point is that Joey made this video many days ago, about almost 2 weeks ago, And it caused quite a stir, and it's starting to build a lot of traction now, especially on TikTok and Twitter, and basically a lot of people are upset with him, even talking about gatekeeping anime tourists, and, you know, a lot of people...
Most people upset with him are not upset with him for his ideas. They hate this guy due to his anime takes in the past. Like, again, if you go look at Ellen Historian's TikTok, where he shits on the anime man for takes that, again, that I disagree with, you'll notice that many people commenting don't even watch the video. They don't care. Many people, especially in online drama, they don't fucking listen. Again, they're NPCs waging on team sports and tribalism. It's, I'm on Joey Bisinger's side, I'm on the anime man's side, or I'm on Ellen Historian's side. I don't actually care about the words being said. I just hate this guy because he said something about anime that I disagreed with the past. Oh, I see him now. I hate him. Upvoted because anti-anime man TikTok. It's that simple, in my opinion.
Right now are trying to say Joey is a messed up individual because of this clip. And I'm gonna play this clip because it's
the colonization.
gaining a lot of traction, especially on TikTok. And I feel like it's important to really show this before I go any further.
Let's see it.
Video, he actually compares anime tourists to the colonization of the Americas. Are we serious right now? You are really comparing anime becoming mainstream to the death of millions and countless atrocities.
And then here comes the buzzword. Here, I see a lot of people commenting, this catchphrase of Ellen Historians. Wait for it. What? Oh no! He cut it. Basically, he says, that's a new low. I see a lot of people spamming, that's a new low over and over again.
My guy, chill.
Okay, so before...
It's not that deep.
Before I let Joey speak, I'm going to say this right now. Joey was making an analogy. He wasn't trying to make it political. He wasn't trying to, like, undermine anything that happened in history. He was just talking about how people come into a culture and they change it. They literally force it to change. That's literally what he was pretty much saying. And the fact that TikTok is taking like a 30-second to 40-second clip from a 24-minute video and running it and trying to smear Joey is just so disingenuous. It's wild. But anyways, let me let Joey speak here before.
That's what I've been saying. You know my take with this. We've been dragging this stupid-ass drama about Columbus and colonization, which I think is so cringe because, again, even though I empathize with the victims of colonization and admit that what happened was terrible, do we really care about it right now? We're just watching fucking anime, and this example came up, and now I have to fucking dissect why this is an issue. The joke was making fun of Columbus for coming to the Americas and ignorantly labeling the Americas as India. And connecting that, again, first of all, making fun of Columbus, and then equating that to the tourist behavior, also coming in and just labeling anime that they have no clue about as whatever they want to. So when you think about the context of this analogy, where you make fun of the shitty guy, how do you possibly then say this is a new low, right? Ellen Historian's take, of course, is that he's trying to say that there is a insane shock value comparison to be making fun of colonization with this. But again, it's just so hard to believe that the anime man is making fun of colonization because he is condemning Columbus in this joke. I give the one-to-one comparison with Hitler and the Holocaust and the Jews also, which is an insane thing for me to even do, but I do this for you to really, really understand the direct side-by-side comparison. So if we acknowledge that the joke is making fun of Columbus, let's say there's also a similar joke making fun of Hitler. And what are we condemning Hitler or Columbus about? Well, we're condemning Columbus about the act of colonization. How stupid he was in ignorantly labeling stuff. Now, the other comparison, we're making fun of Hitler and condemning the Holocaust and stuff. So then, how do you possibly at this point say, how could you do this to the victims of colonization? Then you could say, how could you do this and make fun of the Jews of this terrible outcome? You know what I'm saying? And it's only possible if you think that you're glorifying these acts, but it's not. It is not the case. And I think that it is a very disingenuous reach to say that the anime man is making this joke at the expense of the victims of these terrific acts, these horrible incidents, right?
Before I go any further.
It's not that deep. May I remind you, we are literally talking about Japanese cartoons.
Yes.
It's really not that deep, okay? I'm sorry you feel that way, but completely misconstruing the point that I made not understanding what an analogy is, all from a 30-second Twitter clip,
like I said,
that comes from a 24-minute YouTube video, and making it way too overly political for your...
Now, to play a little defense for Ellen Historian, he did say in the call that he watched the video, the 24-minute video. It's just most people assume that he just got clip chimped because in his video, he has like a Twitter clip of like a 24-second moment of the Columbus analogy being made. And I think a lot of people are assuming that he only watched that clip and is trying to reach with it.
Your own good is just not my problem, okay? You've been watching too much anime. You've been on the internet for far too long. So why don't we put the phone down?
And oh my god, this joke. I know he came up with this joke on the side before he recorded this.
Slowly. Go outside.
Wait for it.
Bask in a little bit of vitamin D.
Wait for it.
And just relax for a little bit.
Wait.
Okay?
My man just told him to touch grass.
Maybe go out there and read a book.
He told him to touch grass.
A light novel, perhaps.
Oh, I love that part though. Because again, this is just fun content at the end of the day, right? It's just stupid drama. The way that he said maybe read some light novels because your name is in it, I thought that was a little cheeky.
But either way, just relax, okay? It's really not that deep.
And I completely agree with him, right? I completely agree with Joey that like it is not that deep. There's nothing that was done in that analogy that makes light of the victims of colonization, because again, the joke is making fun of Columbus. And even if you think that like there's some sort of mental gymnastics you can do to acknowledge that like whatever Ellen Historian said about Joey, I just don't agree with it, right? And that's kind of where we leave off there.
So it's interesting that Joey says this, okay? Like he was responding to Ellen Historian, because the other day I had a run-in with this man as well.
Yeah, and then this one, right? We covered that yesterday. This one is also very it's nefarious. It's tricky because the way that he presents politics in the context of One Piece and how the Trash Taste podcast members were not able to immediately acknowledge that political elements were in it is absolutely true. The clips played was true. Hassan's take, even if you hate him, is true. One Piece absolutely is rooted in politics. Now, it's not Oda, again, trying to make you say, be a liberal or be a conservative or be whatever in the political spectrum. He's simply showing you stories of a man attempting for his own freedom and in the byproduct, liberating people, right? Liberating and freeing the people that is oppressed by a tyrannical government and powerful cabals, right? No matter how you see that, it is political in nature. Doesn't need to be, but you can absolutely interpret that explicitly as political, definitely more than many other animes. But then to reach and say, because Joey did not immediately acknowledge that One Piece was political, he now is wrong for saying it's not that deep in the previous clip we just watched, in order to further reinforce his notion that it is that deep. That I don't agree with, right? Because again, the foundations that he's setting in this clip, absolutely correct. But then the jump in logic he makes to tie in these two things, that's where I say no.
And as you can see here, he commented on my post, hot take, if you think fan service doesn't belong in anime and manga, you shouldn't be in the anime community.
And you know what? That take, I also thought more and more about it. I think Chibi is right. And I think that if you are coming in to basically, like, again, right? Let's just give a direct comparison to Japan. You are an international person coming into Japan for tourism, and you see in Japan some things that you just don't agree with. You should get the fuck out of the country, right? No matter how, like, morals and ethics aside, if you don't agree with the values and the customs and the culture of a country that you don't live in, you should remove yourself from that place rather than change an entire place and a group of people that have established that place to be what it is. The anime medium is the same thing. You come in here, and no matter how much you disagree or think that some elements are weird, and definitely I can agree with you, and we can have a conversation about there are a lot of weird sus shit happening in Japanese anime that is hard for me to just like accept But because I know anime is more than just that, I choose to turn a blind eye to it and move on. Maybe that makes me a shitty person, but let's get real. We're watching fucking fictional cartoons. And if you feel uncomfortable with these things, rather than make a whole political activist campaign trying to uproot this shit that you don't really understand much of, maybe you should remove yourself from it rather than crying and complaining. This is the way things should be.
And he made pretty much this whole TikTok video pretty much saying that fans...
But again, that doesn't mean that I think everybody should be just fucking... Like, we're not doing like old Japan or Wano shit from One Piece where we just close the borders. That's not what I'm saying. I think that tourists are important. What was the anime man's take? The take was... Oh, there's a person... You can't ask the question. Read the fucking rule, bro. You can't ask for a schedule. The take was, right? Tourists are important because if you bottleneck and close off, you know, basically the borders, then your community will slowly die off. This is not going to be a sustainable thing. If you want your medium, right, your anime to get better and better, you need new people coming in and help it grow and thrive. This doesn't mean let fucking everyone come in. This doesn't mean close everyone off. There needs to be a moderate way in which we accept people who want to come here and respect the stuff that we also enjoy, while also gatekeeping those who want to change this shit from the core because they're fucking tourists. That's it.
Service, you know, why are people defending fan service and, you know, problematic elements and all that? You know, anime isn't perfect. And this entire thing that Ellen tries to talk about here, he tries to say that I'm saying anime is perfect, and I have never once justified and said anime is perfect. But the thing is that wanting to remove an element that is ingrained in the very DNA of anime and manga is what Joey himself was even talking about. That, like, you're a tourist. You're someone that is trying to come into the culture and fundamentally change it and remove what makes anime and manga anime and manga.
Now, what Chibi said there is correct if you are a brand new person coming into the anime community on a fucking tourist visa, right? Again, direct life example. You have never lived in Japan. You traveled to Japan and maybe you worked there as like an English teacher. I don't know. You're some sort of, you know, worker there. And you see things that you just don't agree with. And you decide, you know what? This isn't the way that Japan should be. I want to change shit. That is more akin to what Chibi is saying. A brand new person coming in here that has no idea about the culture of this place that you're being in and trying to change shit out of ignorance. What if someone has been there for a long time though? Like Ellen Historian, right? What if someone has been a citizen of Japan and lived in it and sees things that they don't agree with? And they want to voice their opinion and use their platform to enact change. Would that make them a tourist? I don't have the answer for this. I'm asking you a question that you should really think about, right? Because this is not a brand new person coming in. Ellen Historian, like he says, he's in here for 13 years. And no matter what you think, you know, how much you want to reduce that, I think there has to be some sort of acknowledgement that, like, this guy knows anime. This guy is not a random dude coming in from the fucking explosion of anime in 2020 watching fucking Oonga Boonga Slayer. So when you accept that someone has been in the community for a long time and wants to enact change, just because they're trying to change things that's been set in stone due to old customs and traditions, are they suddenly a tourist? That kind of seems wrong to me, right? It feels flawed. It feels like a very convenient way to silence people because you just don't agree with the changes that they want to make on an existing customs and traditions that actually might be outdated. These are actually like genuine questions that I have no answers to, but I think is very interesting to think about, that I think you should also fucking think about, rather than just playing team sports and saying, oh, I hate this guy or I hate this guy. Like, actually think about it.
Eventually, Ellen Historian makes a response to Joey saying, like, you know, chill out, and he says, responding to the anime man on the anime tourist versus colonization analogy, is anime inherently political? Yes, it is. And obviously, I looked at this, I was disgusted, and I was like, anime is not inherently political.
Now, again, this part has to come down with what I said in the intro. How do you define inherently political? Because inherently political to me, the semantics, the definition, it sounds like deep in the subconscious of any medium, politics exists because, again, people created it. People created it with their own viewpoints and perspectives and value systems that they had growing up. And some people may not agree with some things, and then that's where political discourse happens. Some things are going to be way more explicitly political than others, right? Like One Piece, absolutely, it is very more political than some other animes, such as, I don't know, let's just think about fucking gushing over magical girls. I'm sure if you did some sort of mental gymnastics, you could make an argument that gushing over magical girls has a lot of political commentary in it. But I just feel like that's like a pretty decent one where it's like, there's not really much going on, right? There's not really much going on. So again, how do you define inherently political? I think Chibi is thinking inherently political as in it's in your face. That like every anime is a political think piece that makes you question, you know, and that has a lot of like political real world commentary, like one-to-one direct examples, right? That might be his definition. That's why they're, again, arguing past each other. This is what happens when people react to clips and just simple statements with few little characters rather than having a full discussion.
Full stop. And basically, he decided to respond to me, and as you can see here, the rise of anti-intellectualism in the anime community is very concerning. Many of you dismiss the deeper themes and political messages in shows often as a way to cope. And as soon as I saw this, I'm just like, this is the very reason why people don't like tourists. Like, why people want to gatekeep.
But like, is Ellen Historian a tourist? How do you define a tourist? To me, a tourist is a completely new person that has no fucking understanding of the culture that they're visiting. I don't think that's Ellen Historian, right? I think he's been in the scene for a long time. I think he absolutely knows a lot about anime and different tropes and cliches and the culture surrounding it. And he's voicing his opinion about how he doesn't like those things. Again, the question made about the two separate examples. A brand new person coming into Japan that has no fucking idea what Japan's about, trying to change Japan at the core, or an actual Japanese citizen that has been living there that disagrees with its traditions and customs and want to enact change. Which type do you think Ellen Historian is? Sure, a tourist is a mindset, but here's the thing. Isn't that convenient for you to just say tourism is a mindset, for you to just censor the other side because you just want nothing to change? That's a very like stagnating, regressive mindset to have. Put your bias aside and actually think about what you're saying. This notion that tourism is a mindset stems from you basically saying, in absolutes, I don't want anything to change. Nothing should fucking change. Because you disagree with the changes being made, now you're calling someone a tourist. That's not fair. That's very counterproductive.
Because not everything is political. Not all art is political. But on top of that, it gets in...
He's not really saying all art is political. He's saying inherently political. And again, it's just fucking definitions right now, right? So what is it? Let's just bring up fucking Google. What does inherently mean? The adverb inherently means in a natural or innate matter. Some people enjoy inherently cheerful nature, but okay. When I read this, right, the definition for me is, it sounds like it's deeply in the subconscious, that it's deeply rooted. It doesn't need to be in your face, right? And to that extent, I agree that many things are inherently political. Again, not everything is in your fucking face, a political think piece saying, hey, think about this shit. Hey, look at the political commentary shit. Doesn't this look like the real world? This is why, again, it's just a debate of like semantics right now. Most conversations and debates are just wasted because both sides have different definitions or semantics of something, and they argue past each other.
To the point of what Joey was talking about and the disingenuous nature of what a lot of these new anime fans, especially thanks to COVID, are doing to the community. And so I think it's a perfect time than ever to really segue into this topic and really get into the heart of the issue of what has kind of been going on as of late. So first off, we need to talk about, in general, the low-hanging fruit that is fan service and censorship.
If they fix Vamola's suit design, they can 100% fix Rin Yokai form. Sign Sarah, I believe in you. So the girl that was shown at the very end of Dan Da Dan Season 2, she had a plug suit on, and I guess it was supposed to be way more skimpy. probably like a thong and a bikini top or something like that, huh?
This is very ingrained in the conversation as of late, because obviously with what we've seen in the last few months, or years at this point, there is an active push for anime and manga to censor itself for certain
That's absolutely correct. If you deny this, I think you are living in Delulu land. Chibi literally covers so many different examples of censorship happening, not just in anime, manga, video game stuff too, and many activist groups trying to just like use this Puritan movement of anti-fan service, right? Sexual elements mostly grounded in, oh, think about the kids, you know, like this kind of stuff. Kids shouldn't be watching it. We had the whole Bocchi the Rock incident stuff happening, right?
Content within it to be censored. And nowadays you have individuals that used to bully kids back in the early 2000s or 2010s jumping into the anime and manga community and reading things, and they're like, okay, this surface level stuff is good, but if you watch or read the wrong series, then obviously you're going to get bullied, or you're going to be called a PDF or whatever. That is the new anime and manga community in the last 5 to 6 years. You have those bullies that used
Yeah, a lot of people will call Chibi straight up a PDF because he will post screenshots of lollies or, you know, lolly adjacent stuff, or the fact that, you know, oh, you're a Mushoku Tensei enjoyer, you must be a fucking Diddy enjoyer. Even Monogatari, right? Oh, you watch Monogatari, you must be Diddygatari, bro. You must fucking love that shit. Which, again, I'm sure some people do. But to label them as absolutes is, again, wrong. Never argue on the basis that things are in absolutes, true or false, that everyone behaves like this. No, in any subset, in any community you look into, there's gonna be always bad faith actors. And then to use that, you know, vocal minority or like a small sample size and to label that as like, everybody does this, that's not productive.
Think all anime and manga was cringe or call you a loser. They actively jumped into the community, and now instead of not ever interacting with the community, they're in the community and trying to mold it, shape it, change it, and twist it into something that is no longer anime and manga. And I feel like...
But what is no longer anime and manga? When lollies are censored? When this girl's plug suit is showing less skin? Is it no longer anime and manga because you can't see something and it makes you less horny? But this question that I'm asking is quite disingenuous because, again, when we come up to talk about censorship, it's not about the fan service. It's not about the titties. It's not about the ass. It's not about the fact that a lolly is no longer wearing a G-string. It's the fact that, again, once you give them an inch, they take a mile. And people will start censoring stuff more and more. And because you disagree with the fan service, you think that censorship should happen. But what if they take away stuff that you actually enjoy in the future? And this is the common talking point used to combat censorship, used by Chibi and myself and many others too. But recently I've been thinking more and more about it. Is it that problematic that we censor this shit? Because again, the basis of this is kind of based on fear. It's based on fear that, like, hey, you take this away, your stuff is gonna take away too. And that kind of feels like propaganda. Why do we censor? Or why do we not censor? I talked about why is CP censored? You know, I think that's a very common sense thing. If you don't know what CP is, you might be too young here. Because this notion that nothing should be censored is also false. We still don't just allow everything to happen. We use our common sense and logic to acknowledge, yeah, these are really fucked up elements. These are insanely harmful, or these things should never even take place or even be shown because this will inspire or encourage others to do more horrific acts. So I think there should absolutely be a case to realize that, like, as a collective society, we can come together and use your fucking brain and say, yeah, CP, I don't think that should be just shown online, right? Harmful acts to minors or anything vulnerable groups. How about we censor that? That's something we can all agree about, right? So can we all come together and agree that, like, we should put less skin on anime girls? As in, like, show less titties? Will this harm anything in the future? What if there's a future, right? What if there is a timeline where we can come together and acknowledge that, like, yeah, this stuff should get censored, but nothing gets censored after that, would you be fine with it then? These are extremely hypothetical theoreticals, again, that exist in a vacuum, which is not realistic. But I'm asking these questions to kind of like change your perspectives and frame your mindset such that, again, instead of thinking, oh my God, they censored one thing, everything else is going to get censored. What if that was not the case? What if they just censored this anime fan service stuff with the lolly stuff and nothing else gets changed? Would you be comfortable with that? You know? I don't know. I don't have the answers. I'm just, again, these are just thoughts just marinating in my head that I want you to think about too.
I need to summarize this in a better way. So basically, imagine you look at anime. You're a mega fan of anime, and it has this content in it that might have like a fan service. It might not have fan.
No. This is a talking point that I see a lot that's literally defending CP and lolicon stuff. Do people that investigate PDF stuff, they need to watch hundreds of actual CP? Do they become PDF in time too? No. Not everyone is innately, just because you're exposed to something doesn't mean you become a fucking pedophile. But to take this and apply this to everyone is also foolish. There are absolutely people that have pedophilic tendencies, but there's also people that don't. And to say exposure of something simply makes you into a bad person is ignorant and works in absolute terrible fucking bad faith arguments.
And servers, let's say it has adult themes. Let's say it has themes that, you know, a lot of people might consider icky, so to speak. And just because it makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean that that content shouldn't necessarily be there. It's like Berserk, for instance. Berserk does have a lot of uncomfortable content, but it's there. It's there for the story. It's there because...
I actually thought about the context of Berserk too. It's basically, there's a lot of grape that happens, right? And I was thinking about, I've been constantly thinking about like, why are people fine with gory shit or really insane acts of evil happening in some shows versus, let's say, Dan Da Dan, where they show Momo about to get graped by an alien? And I think it's about the setting and the context. That Berserk is supposed to be set in dark fantasy old medieval times where it's not modern day Japan. And because we can contextualize a different environment and setting, suddenly people getting graped and all these murders and horrific accidents happening, we're like, yeah, that sounds about right. That kind of environment, that kind of setting, that's what happened in the past. Therefore, we're kind of like we're less likely to just say, oh my God, I can't believe they did that, right? Dan Da Dan, again, even if there is supernatural elements in it, the setting is Japanese high school kids and minors involved. And when you think about that, it becomes a lot more significant in how people get offended and triggered. Plus the popularity of how recent and modern this is versus Berserk, which again is a very popular, significant series, yet it doesn't have a huge anime project that a lot of people talks about in a trendy way.
The artist and author wanted it to be there. There is no other explanation. There doesn't need to be another explanation. If the artist and author wanted it there, it's there. It's their work. It's their story. That's the end of discussion right there.
Yeah, for sure. It's the artist's intentions, and they wanted to portray their story. And absolutely, we can agree that the Made in Abyss author, or even Mushoku Tensei's author, they're probably fucked in the head. You've seen what Made in Abyss does, bro. Some of the interview stuff that comes out with the author, it's very questionable. I think it's just a matter of time before he gets caught. But besides the point, I actually prefer works of art to be done by fucked up people. Maybe this is a hot take, but I actually enjoy really insane works of fiction that can only be made by someone fucked in the head rather than a complete normie vanilla person. Because again, I'm watching fiction not for realism, but for escapism and to experience something that's exaggerated, that goes beyond what the real world can offer.
And the point is if it makes you uncomfortable and you really don't like that content, do not interact with that content.
There it is too, right? Right? Remove yourself. You don't like this? Get out. Rather than crying and pissing in the grocery aisle that like, wah, this is here, maybe you should remove yourself from that environment.
Do not dive into that content. Do not read or watch that content. But if it makes you uncomfortable and you still read it, then you don't really have a reason to complain. Which
I think the reason to complain, though, is it comes to moral policing, right? It comes to think about the kids. Because you could simply remove yourself from these shows or things that makes you feel uncomfortable. And that could be just done. But some people will stick around and make this argument of, we need to get rid of this because it makes me uncomfortable, and think about the children. That is something that I see a lot of times, right? I think a lot of people try to go on this moral high road like perspective of, oh my god, if we don't get rid of it, this is going to be so harmful to society.
Gets back into Ellen Historian and how he was deeming like Mushoku Tensei, for instance, very problematic, and basically things need to be just, you know, like ruined or removed, so to speak. Because
did he say remove Mushoku Tensei though? I think there's a complete difference in saying Mushoku Tensei is a Diddy show. I don't like Rudy, and the way that the author portrays the story and tries to normalize a lot of these elements are weird. But these are criticisms being made by Ellen Historian, and I don't think he's trying to say remove, delete, or censor Mushoku Tensei. He's simply bringing up points to say, isn't this fucked up? And then some people will take that and be like, you're trying to censor this shit? Nah, you're the problem. You know what I mean?
Because it's problematic or trying to normalize certain things, and I'm just like, no, if you don't like the content, don't interact with it. Just stop. Full stop. Just don't read it. Don't watch it.
But doesn't that mean that you can't? But this argument then also comes from the perspective that you can't criticize anything, which again goes back to Ellen Historian's TikTok. He never said delete or censor. He said criticize. That if I simply criticize something, I'll be called a tourist. That is the essence of this video, right? That he thinks that it's problematic that I can't even have this conversation about pointing out the problem elements, and then suddenly people just calling me a tourist simply based on that.
Just stop. Because obviously it's not meant for you. The content's not meant for you, or the story or manga, anime, whatever is not meant for you. Just full stop. And it's like, normalize. If you want to know anything that needs to be normalized, normalize not interacting with media that you don't like or upsets you. That's what people need to normalize. Besides,
I think that there is no problem again, what Chibi is also saying is, he's also, this is the interesting thing about Chibi and other people who try to go against censorship. Sometimes you go completely full circle and you end up being the one trying to censor others. Because now he's saying, Ellen Historian, you shouldn't even have a fucking voice in this matter and remove yourself from it. Which I disagree with. I think that if he finds Mushoku Tensei problematic, then he can absolutely bring, you know, his opinions about it, because that's just freedom of speech. I don't know. I know that not everyone lives in America, myself included, but like, I think that if you find this shit weird, should you just be never allowed to talk about it? I think we can absolutely agree that if Ellen Historian is saying delete Mushoku Tensei, remove this forever. At that point, I would agree with Chibi. But Ellen Historian's take again is, how can I make criticism of this shit and get immediately called a tourist and not think that this community is fucked, you know?
Just gatekeeping as well, which is very important, but that is something that needs to be normalized. But I'm going on a tangent. The big point here is that there is a lot of people now, an active push for a lot of character designs and stuff in like modern day shonen and anime mainstream shows to have censored designs. And
remember the Liliana incident in Re:Zero Season 3? That was the 9/11 for lolicons. Liliana's no longer just wearing, again, a bikini top and bottom. She's wearing some, like, shorts and spats to cover it. And oh my god, the outcries of the community. But it's really hard, again, to, like, be critical of this shit, because many people will simply reduce it down to, y'all are just gooners. You know, they don't really care about the act of censorship. In principle, they're just like, man, you guys are just a bunch of fucking horny degenerates who just want to get off on lollies. And at that point, the conversation becomes very reductive, because we're not longer talking about the core principles of censorship, but just trying to shame others simply based on the fact that you jack off to lollies.
I think a very important one is this design right here and how her suit was changed. And it's a very subtle change, and not a lot of people even realize this change, but it is a change fundamentally.
Does the change impact my immersion of Dandadan? Absolutely not. Is it somehow gonna make me like if she showed more skin, would my experience been more enhanced? I mean, I probably would have laughed. I've been like, damn, this outfit's fucking crazy. But you know, stuff like this doesn't, for me personally, it doesn't matter. It genuinely doesn't fucking matter. But even if it doesn't change my experience, again, it's about the fundamental concept of censorship and what kind of movement this will set for the future. A precedence that is set.
And the fact that you have people literally saying they fixed her design is so disrespectful because it is censorship. It is. Like, if you look at the
I think that
original design...
Okay, what is the difference, bro? The leotard legs? Oh my god, it's the thighs. They're not even showing the thigh. Okay, they added an extra, like... This is such minor censorship, man. If anything, I think the left one is more lewd because it shows her belly. There's actual like lines and like basically like the suit looks tighter here and like this little bevel that shows her belly fat and like the waist coming in like this. I think the left side is actually more lewd than the right side, despite, you know, right over here on the legs being censored.
I'll probably have a picture on the screen for you to see. If you look at the design, she does have skin showing, just her arms and legs, and it doesn't really show anything besides that. And it's clearly a reference from like old TV movies and stuff from the
NGE?
60s, 70s, and 80s. There is active designs that are very similar to it. And the point is that you have people wanting the character design to change because it upsets them that a female character is showing some form of skin, and they will go out of their way to call it fixed.
I think that, why would the censorship even happen? Is it because people are getting mad? I think it's because they want this show to be more presentable to a wider audience because advertisers, you know, like, in my opinion, I think a lot of this shit happens because, you know, advertisers are like, listen, we want to like show this to everybody, especially like kids, because there's a lot of kids watching this and it's hard to like show this stuff to kids and show ads in it and monetize because, you know, you shouldn't be showing sexy elements to kids like that and just force it down their throats.
And that is why the topic of fan service is so important, is because you have these individuals seeping into the community, trying to change it, smooth down the edges of anime and manga, and then once they do that, they're going to creep even further and get other aspects they deem problematic.
That is a theory that I think makes sense. We don't know. That's why, again, is this propaganda or not? Is this, oh, once you take away this, it's gonna come after everything you love? Or will it just stop? Will it just stop with this and move on? This is something we don't know, but looking at past examples of historic events of censorship, it does seem like once they start to test the waters and take one thing away, it's like a domino effect. And slowly, later on, it's right up your throat. And you don't even realize, and it's too late by then.
Removed. And that is an inherent issue. That is the reason why Joey used the analogy of basically colonists, people trying to come into the community and trying to change it fundamentally from the ground up, because we have seen this. We have seen now that there's even activists within the anime and manga community, within major companies, even in Japan.
Chibi is right about that, and again, there's many different video examples for you to go look at those.
We have seen this with the whole Bocchi drama as well. So I think fundamentally, I feel like anime tourists are a big problem. They are not fans, and I think that if you want to know what is labeled a tourist, it doesn't matter how long you're an anime fan. You could be an anime fan for 20 to 25 years, okay?
Here we go. Duration don't matter.
If you're someone that thinks, like, fan service and stuff is problematic, and you continue to interact with the form of media, and you think it needs to be removed, that is a tourist.
That is where I disagree with Chibi. Because again, I give you the example of a person who is brand new to Japan versus someone that's been living in Japan and acknowledges that the traditions and cultures that have been preserved in the past should be changed. Again, isn't that a very convenient way to just say tourism mindset? That just because again, Chibi is saying nothing needs to ever be changed. Tradition and culture should be kept no matter what. If you attempt to even challenge that, you're a fucking tourist. Maybe this isn't what he's saying, but when I hear his words, this is what it sounds to me. And that itself sounds flawed. I think a tourist is more of someone that has no fucking idea of the customs and cultures of a place. And most likely, they're brand new. I think someone that's been living and breathing and consuming the content in anime for a long time as an historian and simply pointing out flaws that he doesn't disagree with, right? And it may be flaws to him, maybe not flaws to you. For him criticizing things that he doesn't agree with, that doesn't make him a tourist. You just have different opinions, and you're labeling the other as a tourist to completely, absolutely censor one side, which I disagree with.
That is a tourist because it has always been in the anime and manga community since the 60s, 50s, 40s, whatever. It's been
Exactly. I know it's in the DNA. But so what? You know what else has been in the fucking DNA of human civilization? Slavery. I know this is an insane example to make, but let's just rewind the world back a couple hundred years. You know how prevalent slavery was? It's just ingrained in our cultures. So let me just bring you again. Someone's saying, Ellen Historian says, I think slavery bad. And Chibi says, how fucking dare you, tourist? Do you know what I'm saying? I know that this might be an unfair example, but I think my point still stands. Just because this is the way things has been doesn't mean you should just be like, yup, nothing needs to be changed. We should collectively come together and assess something and think about it. Think about it and say, is this actually bad or not?
In a long time, way before I was even born, and removing that fundamentally is very disrespectful, not just to anime and manga, but these artists, these animators that have been working on many different series for decades. It is extremely disrespectful to change things, and
I agree with, the respect or the lack of respect for artists who are trying to simply present what they love, right? And I think that, again, the slavery example is a very extreme one that I don't think is very fair to be applied to this analogy. But still, his definition of tourist, it's just something in me disagrees with it.
The other things is the reason why anime and manga is so popular is because it's different. It's because it is not like the West. And that is a fundamental thing that I think breaks down any argument against what I'm talking about, is that the reason why anime has risen in popularity,
it's because it's different from Western ideology. That the artist making this panders towards a Japanese male-centric demographic, and because it is so different from Western media in terms of censorship of these risque elements, more people are willing to consume that content. Absolutely.
Is because people are tired of the storytelling within the West. From Hollywood, from Disney, from Marvel, from DC. People are tired of those type of stories, these safe stories that don't really do a lot or do a lot of different unique things.
For sure.
And that is why I think a lot of people have gravitated towards anime, because fundamentally,
the politics, right? And this is actually really funny, because now it actually comes full circle. We start off with Chibi saying art is not inherently political, yet we end with, because of a difference in politics of Western media and Eastern media, more people are willing to watch and consume anime because of the political censorship and, the different, mindsets that Western countries have versus Eastern countries.
Anime is different. The storytelling's different, the jokes are different, the character designs are different, the art style is different, the animation is different, the culture is different. It is just different all around. And you have these people coming into this community that, are jumping in and are like, okay, I like this, but I want it to be more like how the West does things. And that fundamentally will remove what made such a culture unique for so long. And that's the thing.
Will removing fan service remove that culture? Not necessarily, but this could be the first steps of dismantling that culture, which I agree with.
The thing that Joey talks about in his video, which I think is very important, which I want to highlight, he talks about how it's inevitable and there's really no stopping it. And I think that this is very true for a variety of reasons.
Money. It's all about money and advertisers. And the more mainstream anime wants to get, the more restrictions they're going to face with these substances that they're trying to show to everybody. And again, advertisers, they care about not really saving the kids from the boobies and titties, but it's more about laws and regulations and them wanting to show more of this to as many people as possible. And due to that restrictions, censorship will happen.
Because anime has reached a point of such mainstream level that there is no putting the covering the box or closing Pandora's box. It is now officially open. We're never going to go back to the time period to where anime is niche and small. It's never going to be like those days ever again in the early 2000s, 90s, 80s, 2010s as well.
And you know what? That might be a good thing. Because Joy even mentioned this too in this video. Yeah, I'm a big retro anime fan. And you know what? The golden age of anime that a lot of people talk about, the early 2000s, 2010s are great. But you know what? Some of the projects coming out recently, due to the growth of the anime industry, due to the tourists coming in and spending their money and watching this shit, anime is getting better than ever. It truly is. I know there's a lot of shitty anime projects too. That's getting worse than ever. But the quality and the new threshold and the standard that's being set with these insane projects, right, is genuinely a delight.
It's never going to go back to those days. It's going to now be a big form of media that is going to continue to expand and explode, and the only way to effectively combat some bad actors within the industry is by just calling this type of stuff out. So the point is if we don't call this stuff out as it's happening and as it's getting worse, then everything we know and love from anime and manga will change and no longer be what we know and love.
You don't go into K-Barbecue in place and complain about pork. Again, you can't really make this example because here's the thing. K-Barbecue is anime. Pork is fan service. But we know that anime is not just about fan service. So a better example is K-Barbecue is anime. But you know what pork is here? Rather than it being pork, it's more about different condiments, right? Maybe some dude fucking hates kimchi at K-Barbecue. They're like, why the fuck do you keep giving me this fermented fucking bok choy side dish in my fucking dishes? This is disgusting. I hate this shit. And then someone will say, kimchi is an integral part of Korean barbecue. You fucking censor this? The nature of Korean barbecue will change forever? That's more the example that I think should be said.
So yes, I don't like anime tourists. I think they are I'm going to be honest, they are an issue, a huge issue within the anime and manga community. And I feel like one big group that is...
I think Chibi is very definitely on the extreme. I think that Chibi is Trump and Ellen Astorian is some fucking left dude that's saying open the borders for everyone else. And I am the enlightened centrist saying, no, we need to moderate this shit. I think we should let the borders open and let in some people that wants to integrate together, but not gatekeep everyone else out.
Tourist like is actually the Chainsaw Man community.
Thank you, Tiz, for that 2 months. Appreciate you.
Which is kind of wild, honestly. I feel like the Chainsaw Man community one gets me the most because Fujimoto Sensei is such a wild offer. Like if you read like Fire Punch, for instance, before Chainsaw Man, he's a crazy offer. He's unhinged, and
thank God for Fujimoto and that Fujimoto house for having so many insane artists come out of that house and make their more projects. God, this shit's fucking peak.
I love
Dandadan is straight up from that project too, right? Spy Family too, I think, and many other shows.
that. And it's insane to me. There's so many people like dive into like Chainsaw Man, for instance. That's so Puritan. They absolutely loathe like adult content, sexualized content, or anything. They loathe it. When Chainsaw Man is just all about that. There's just so much content like that, but they absolutely love it. Like they will literally wish death upon people or dox people for even mentioning that Chainsaw Man has a lot of fan service or sexualized content.
I think that those people getting death threats are not the average person on Twitter, but more like people like Chibi, who has cultivated a big group of haters, and he constantly rage baits them and instigates them. Again, do you know why Ellen Astorian is getting shit on for the One Piece take, even though he's right? Because again, you created a bunch of haters. Chibi gets sent a lot of death threats and people try to dox him because they disagree with his opinions about fucking anime. And he makes it worse by constantly instigating and making it just like riled up more and more. So again, right? Like not everyone's getting these fucking death threats. This is what happens when people blindly engage on identity politics and team sports and tribalism without thinking about the ideas presented. They just simply hate based on who you are.
And it's crazy how Chainsaw Man as a community has gotten such a Puritan fan base. And you have a lot of these mainstream shows that are getting stuff like that, which gets into the whole, why are you interacting with content that you deem problematic still? Like, it's weird.
They just hate you, bro. It's the negative engagements. It's that simple.
I'll leave it at that, though. I went on a tangent. I wanted to talk about this. I felt it was incredibly important. But I love you guys. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe.
And that's it, man. And you know what? This is about an hour of recording, and I hope that you can realize that there's a lot of nuance and complexities in these kind of conversations. This isn't, oh, dub Chibi or Ellen Historian. I hope by the end, and I know that not everyone's going to listen to every single thing I said in this video, but hopefully you can listen to some segments and really think deeply about what's actually being said. Here's the final take. I think Chibi and Ellen Astorian are very extreme on different sides of the spectrum and arguing past each other. The notion that art is not inherently political is based on the difference of semantics of what you mean to be inherently. I think that many things are inherently political because politics is simply a difference of perspectives and values of human beings. And if human beings created something, it doesn't need to be explicitly a political think piece, but many things can be derived as politics. And it's a very reductive argument to say, oh, it's not political, it is political. I think politics absolutely exists at the subconscious layer of everything. And if you don't agree with that, hey, that's just your opinion, I have mine. The whole notion of gatekeeping and censorship, again, right? Censorship, I think, should happen if we can collectively come together and denounce something as being harmful. Why do we just censor child, corn? Because we can realize that this is harmful, this is fucked up, it shouldn't happen. But anime titties being censored, that's a little ridiculous. And if you don't like something that you came into and you don't want it, yeah, you can absolutely say something about it. Ellen Historian is not saying delete Mushoku Tensei. Ellen Historian is saying, I think Mushoku Tensei is problematic. There's a lot of weird elements. And he's right about that. And that if he voices these opinions, then a lot of people will call him a tourist simply because they disagree with them, which I think also is true. I think Chibi is taking this take and going further and saying, I think Ellen Historian is trying to delete Mushoku Tensei or censor, which that's not what he's saying. But if Ellen Historian was saying delete Mushoku Tensei, I would disagree with them. And I would say you should remove yourself from that space if you don't like it. But if you simply want to bring up opinions and criticize a show about that shit, I think that's also fair. Because you can't just, again, argue for censorship and start censoring other people based on what you don't want censored or not, right? Again, you go so far right, sometimes you come out of the left side. You try to censor, you try to fight against censorship, you're the one actually censoring shit. And this notion of tourism, I disagree that tourism is a mindset. Tourist, again, think about the example of a brand new person coming into Japan that has no idea the customs and cultures and trying to change shit. That's a fucking tourist. But what about a Japanese citizen that's been living in the community and has identified things that they don't like, they don't agree with, and voices their opinions to enact change? Just because some things have been the tradition and culture for the longest time doesn't mean it can't be challenged. And I know that this example is unfair of the whole slavery thing. Chibi saying fan service is incorporated into the DNA of anime and manga. Guess what else was incorporated into the DNA and manga of human civilization? Fucking slavery. So does that mean no one should ever challenge slavery? What a ridiculous take. Absolutely you should. But the difference here between slavery and censoring anime titties is the significance of these two. I think we can all agree it's not the fucking same. So where does this all come down to? We should use our common sense, think, and ask ourselves, is this that harmful? Is this that fucking problematic? And if your final take is that anime titty fan service isn't that important, or that like, oh my god, it's not that important. Like a lot of people will say, it's just anime titties, bro. Don't make a big deal out of it, you gooner. Well, if it's not that important, then why are you so against it? You know what I mean? If it's not that deep and these anime censoring in the titties is not that important to you, then you shouldn't be so fucking Puritan about this shit and trying to fucking get this shit deleted. Here's a link to Chibi's video. Go give it a like. Check out his content. See you next time.